Welcome back to Mini-Modelog. So this video is another thoughts and musings on sort of Black Library really, and why I like it, why what I've read, why I keep reading them. I'm a big history fan. What I mean by that is when it comes to model games, the setting has to be good, the backstories have to be good, and if there's stuff to read on it, I'm one of those people who will get the book, sit down, read it, and really kind of get to know the characters. Some of the books I'm going to talk about has influenced me to buy models, it's influenced me to make a certain army, so there's plenty of things. And what got me started in Black Library is a period when I wasn't playing model games anymore, so I'd sort of given up on model games. And this was the book I first read. I picked this up in W.H. Smith, would you believe it? So you can get it in all sort of bookshops and stuff. Or you can order it online on the Black Library's website, which I'll pop a link for in the description down below. But this was the first kind of book, and you're going to say, well, that looks hefty. And it's only hefty because it's actually 4 novels in one. And it all surrounds Imperial Guard and Gaunt's ghosts, and a certain area of the 40k universe, which is the Sabbat worlds. So if you know a bit about those kind of things, and you're looking to find out more about the Guard and the people who fought in the Sabbat Wars, this is where to start. Now, it's written by Dan Abnett, is the Gaunt's Ghost series. I believe there's like, I don't know, 12 or 13 books in the series, don't quote me on that, but I started my first step into Black Library with this. I really enjoyed it, and at first I just thought, oh well, it's probably the writer I'm enjoying, because Dan Abnett's really good at getting you invested in the characters, keeps the story going, doesn't get bogged down in describing things, but is really keeps us, like I say, keeps the story going and keeps you involved with it basically. And when I first read this, I couldn't put it down, and literally I read it really fast, and then I was hankering after another one. And of course there's been omnibus editions of this, but with Dan I started reading a lot of his stuff. So I read all the Gaunt's Ghost series, the Eisenhorn series, the Ravner series, and then it started me off on the Horus Heresy, because he writes the first book, which is Horus Rising, and that's kind of the Black Library's flagship. And what I mean by that is there's now 46 books in the series, and it sort of charts the stories of 30k. Now, for those of you who don't know, 30k is obviously prior to 40, and is when all of the Primarchs were around, the Emperor wasn't stuck on his throne, and it's when the traitor legions happened, essentially. It's when Horus decided to disobey his father and basically try and take the throne world and take a load of other Primarchs with him. So the first 3 stories in the Horus Heresy cover our kind of trilogy, and sort of focusing on Horus's legion, focuses in the heresy in general, and that first big thing that happened on Istvan 5. Now, I don't want to spoil things. For those of you who don't know the history of 40k, or only play the game, don't really bother with the history, if you are thinking of picking these up, I don't want to spoil anything. So if I say spoiler alert, spin on a couple of seconds or something and just check. I'll tell you when. But the main first story is basically based around what was the Sons of Horus, or the Lunar Wolves is what they were known as. And like I said, the first 3 are basically what happens, why Horus falls, and what happens with that. From there, you can sort of not read it in order. I've read it in order, but the Horus Heresy is very fast and loose with the ordering of it. And that's because different books focus on different things. So you've got Mechanicum, which focuses on the Mechanicus. You've got Legion, which sort of covers the Alpha Legion. You've got, I'm trying to think, Scars, which is the first sort of White Scars focus. 1,000 Suns, which is obvious what that's about. Prospero Burns, again, obvious what that's about. Mark of Calth, again, obvious what that's about. But it gives a real background story to those wars, those things that were fought. Why Magnus, wasn't Magnus's fault, that's all I'm going to say. But all those things. It gives a real backstory to the rich ness that is 40k. So if you're thinking of getting involved into this, start with the first 3 and see if you like them. Obviously the books vary, and that's because there's about, I don't know, 9-10 different writers for the Horus Heresy. So depending on the author, depends on a lot of things really. The pace of the books, whether they get bogged down in descriptiveness or not. Some of them I've really had to persevere to finish. Others have been a joy to read and really easy to read. I mean, for me, Dan Abnett's my favourite author, and everything he's written has been a dream to read. But then, as a result of reading the Horus Heresy, I got into Graham McNeill, and I read his Ultramarines series, if you're an Ultramarines fan. James Swallow, and got into his Blood Angels series, and so on and so on. It made me buy more books, obviously. So, you know, they've had their money's worth out of me. But I suppose this video is really just about what the Horus Heresy is, and why I started reading Black Library books. Now, if you want me to do more on Black Library, do pop a comment down below. If you want me to do a focus on a specific book, if they're in the first 36, I will probably have to reread it, and then do it. So if you are wanting that, be prepared for a little bit of a wait. But that's my sort of thoughts and musings on Black Library. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully some things will be popping up, including the Eisenhorn unboxing that I did earlier in the week, and my subscribe button. And I'll see you next week for news, where I'll do a mid-month news, and then the week after that, I'm doing the Chosen Axes from Shadespire. But that's it for now, and I'll see you later.